Hello everybody, welcome back to another video on the channel. Now this is expected to be a longer video. It is a podcast, but it's just going to be me talking about various topics throughout, or one day a week, about Manchester United. Now in this first episode, we'll be discussing my favourite player at Manchester United, the new manager. There's been news on that. We're talking about thoughts on the season so far, rest of the season predictions. We'll be doing a keep, sell, loan on every player at Manchester United, and we'll be talking about the issues with some of the players at Manchester United. So without further ado, don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. Let's just see what happens. It might be a quick one, it might be a 30-45 minute thing, but let me know your thoughts on this idea and just leave your predictions and answers to the questions and the topics I talk about in the comments. But without further ado, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the favourite player, Manchester United. Now I'm going to give you a top 5 because obviously I'm only going to do it for my generation as well. So from kind of like when I started watching football, which was like probably 2010 to now. So 14 years of Manchester United players. There's been some great players in there. And yeah, we'll be discussing that. So the first, this is in no particular order, but my favourite Manchester United player, well, the first one is Marcus Rashford. Now, I know he's not been in great form in the minute and he's not been performing well for Manchester United. Yes, he's done that interview with Manchester United, with the Players Tribune or Tribune or however you want to say it. But I think he has done well. He's a player who gets you off your seat, and when he's confident, he does seem like a really fantastic player. I think the quality that he has, yes, he's pretty inconsistent, but when I was watching football, he was probably the first player I watched coming through who I remember. I remember watching his two debut goals against Arsenal, his debut goal against Midtjylland when he replaced, I think it was Martial or Rooney in the starting 11. So he is a huge player for me and someone who I respect. I think, yes, his form at Manchester United, as I said, has not been good enough, but I think certainly he can be one for the future, certainly, and I'm sure he'll stay at Manchester United. I think we can see he loves the club, and the quality is certainly there for him to be a top Manchester United player. Now, the second favourite for me is Pogba. Now, it's disappointing. Obviously, he's got banned for 4 years from doping, but I do actually have a Pogba shirt with Pogba 6 on the back from the 2017-18 season. I think for me, just the way he was so elegant on the ball in midfield, he was so technical, skillful as well, had a lot of power and strength, so he could drive with the ball through midfield. He was absolutely a pleasure to watch. And yes, as kind of similar to Rashford, he was inconsistent. We sold him, bought him back for loads of money, and that didn't quite work out. But I think what Pogba did for me is he is a player, another one who gets you off your seat. He's a wow factor, can spray long balls, can shoot, score amazing goals. And for me, yeah, he was important. I think it was just the wrong time for him at Manchester United, and he did find it extremely difficult to settle into the squad. He had a lot of issues with managers, a lot of off-the-pitch issues, getting heavily criticised by the media, which I thought was unfair. He was kind of seen as a scapegoat. So, yeah, it is disappointing, but I certainly think Pogba, for me, is one of my favourite Manchester United players. Now, the third one, the best player in the world, in my opinion, or one of the best, is Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, I didn't watch him. I wasn't born to watch him the first time around at Manchester United. Or when I was born, he was just leaving. So I can only base it on the second stint. And obviously, I've seen numerous of clips from his first time at Manchester United. But for me, an idol of the game. And just what he did for Manchester United, he scored in a really poor United team the second time back. He scored, 18 or 21 goals, I think it was, in that season. And he was absolutely fantastic. I think he's got one of the best mentalities in the world. He's one of the best players in the world. And for me, I just love watching him. He's so skillful. And yes, when he came to Manchester United, he obviously lost a lot of the qualities he had during his prime years. But he was still an absolutely world-class player to watch. And I still really enjoyed watching him at Manchester United. I think the performances he put in week out at the club was absolutely amazing. And he always tried. I mean, obviously, Sir Alex did a lot for him in the early years. And the second time he came back, he felt like he had to repay something to the fans. And as I said, scoring the goals that he did, I remember that hat-trick he scored against Spurs. He scored some late winners against Atalanta. He's just a clutch player. And for me, he's one of my favourite players. So there's 3 that I've discussed. Now, another one, as I said, I'm only doing for my generation. And a player I've been lucky enough to see was Wayne Rooney. Now, legend at Manchester United, all-time goal scorer. When I did watch him at Manchester United, it was kind of in his later years when he was kind of playing that number 10 role. He was much more further back, didn't have as much pace as he did when he was in his prime years, but still an absolute great player. Some of the goals he scored, I still remember away at West Ham, coming home to watch that game. He scored from the halfway line. I remember the goal the record-breaking goal against Stoke in the dying minutes of a game, which won us the game. I remember that goal against Tottenham, where he did that boxing celebration. For me, I think Rooney, based on strikers alone and the position that he played, for me, should be one of the best players in the Premier League for me. I think he's so important for the way that I watch football, and he did kind of make me enjoy watching football. I think I only watched a few years of him because then he did leave United, but an absolute great servant to the club, scored the most goals, and for me is an underrated Premier League legend in my opinion. Now the last player, this might be someone, now I've done attackers, it's going to be a defender that not many people, or midfielder, so it's going to be someone who Manchester United don't really think about maybe, but the fifth and final, my favourite Manchester United player has to be, if I was to go a centre-back, it would be Lisandro Martinez, but he is too early into his reign. Actually, no, forget it. I'm going to go for another attacker. My favourite Manchester United, another attacker from the years I've been watching football, has to be Edison Cavani. I think he came to Manchester United. He was quite old. He was 35 years of age, kind of tied with Ronaldo as well. But for me, the effort and the passion and some of the goals that he scored, he was a great goal scorer and an absolute fantastic player to have. I think the importance of him for Manchester United, as he said, he probably did come in at the wrong time, but we're in desperate need of a striker, and he definitely did help us. So, yeah, I think he was an absolutely fantastic player, a world-class prospect to have. Not a prospect, but a world-class player. He's a legend of the game, has scored some important goals for us. So there are my 5 most important Manchester United players. Let me know your thoughts on that, and we're going to move on to the next.